What is up, guys? It is the Bluebloods here, back with another Week 3 preview, and we're headed to the FCS level again. We opened up with Jackson State and ULM this morning at 8 a.m. It's 11 now. We're dropping Arkansas Pine-Bluff, traveling to face in-state rival Central Arkansas. This is the first matchup since '08 from former Arkansas rivals, man. The only two FCS schools in the state of Arkansas are finally going to get back together in SC Stadium, home of the Bears, man. This is going to be such a huge matchup. And for me, it's one of the more overlooked matchups of the weekend. So guys, just real quick, if you're new, hit that subscribe button, like this video. And also, I got a hold of Tyler Hudson, wide receiver for Central Arkansas. His interview is going to be at the end of this episode. Asked him about the game, got his thoughts on this game. And so that interview will be at the end of this episode after I, get done with my preview. So stay tuned for that. But coming into the game, the storylines are pretty, I guess, really interesting in my opinion. I mean, we got a top 25 team, number 25 in Central Arkansas. They're looking to bounce back from an 0-2 start, but they might be one of the best 0-2 teams in the country. Arkansas State FBS program, they played really well the first half, but just that depth kind of got to them late. And then they lose to a top 15 team in Missouri State as well in a huge top 25 battle last week. And they were leading until I believe it was like a minute left in the fourth quarter. So that was a game that could have went either way for them. So, head coach Nathan Brown said that they were looking to take their frustrations out this week on UAB. So the Bears are coming in with a huge chip on their shoulder. And speaking of chips on shoulders, Arkansas Pine-Bluff comes in at 1-0. They win week 1 against Lane College. They also had a bye week 2, but the chip is huge for this UAPB team. Everyone is discrediting their run to the SWAC championship last year, where they ultimately fell short to Alabama A&M. But they're out to prove to everyone that it was not a fluke, that they're a real contender in the SWAC West, and that, also on the flip side, we've talked about this a lot on this channel. This is a huge non-conference opportunity for the SWAC to really put their names on the map. Central Arkansas is a ASUN team, and they can't overlook this game either because they got a huge matchup with Sam Houston next week. So, and that's the reigning FCS champion. So they have to try to get a win here, but without overlooking one of the most underrated teams in the SWAC, in my opinion. But let's get into the keys of the game. We'll start with Central Arkansas, and the number one key has to be limit the turnovers. Turnovers have cost them, really and truly both games, but definitely last week against Missouri State. But then also the key is allowing Braylon Smith to do his thing, distributing to his talented playmakers across the field, especially on the outside. And in my opinion, he might have one of the better receiving corps in the FCS. But then also, it seems like Central Arkansas abandons the run game too soon. They have to let Braylon Smith do his thing. They're a pass-heavy scheme type team, but you have to establish the run a bit better, or teams are going to key in, and Braylon Smith is going to have to make some low percentage throws, which ultimately puts him in turnover. He has a lot of turnover-worthy plays in that case. But Braylon Smith is a playmaker, and they have to lean on his strengths. I mean, he's thrown for over 600 yards, 5 touchdowns, but the 4 interceptions is what has killed this Bears offense. Smith has to try to play a clean game. He has to be effective because UAPB is too good of a team to give extra possessions to, and also set them up with a short field in case they bring that interception back, into the red zone or something like that. And I won't get too much in the wide receiving core now because that'll be in a later segment, but the Bears just have a ridiculous collection of talent. It's headlined by Lawan Washington and also Tyler Hudson, who'll be on the show, who will, come on and give us thoughts at the end of this. But they also have 3 wide receivers averaging over 14 yards per carry. Hudson's averaging over 22 yards per catch, and might be, in my opinion, the most electric wide receiver in the FCS. And The reason I mentioned the running game is because the Bears have some talent at the running back spot, but it seems like the offense moves away for it. They almost like forget about it in the crucial moments, and it's really put them into some bad positions. Darius Hale is probably going to be the feature back. But he's only got 29 carries thus far for only 89 yards. He did find the end zone twice, but the X factor for me is Tristan Smith, a redshirt freshman running back who's averaging almost 10 yards a carry in his limited action. They have to try to get him into this offensive system because I think he could be a huge change of pace and, a huge spark plug for this Bears offense. And, I say the run game as well because the Bears are only converting about 18% of their third downs. Tyler's going to talk about it later, but the third down offense has been atrocious, and that has cost them so many games. And it's because that run game has kind of put them in some third and longs, and it's very hard to execute, very hard to convert those. So for me, they have to get themselves in third and manageables and improve that third down percentage because you cannot beat this UAPB team with an inefficient offense. So those are my keys for Central Arkansas. Now, in terms for Arkansas Pine-Bluff, it's got to be the same game plan that they used against Lane 2 weeks ago and that they used to make a run to the SWAC title last year. And that's use the run game to set up opportunities for Spencer Perry late in the game and just allow this offense to flow. So the Golden Lions had 5 different players with multiple carries last weekend. It shows that they have a little bit of depth in that backfield to trust, rotate in, and keep people fresh as they try to wear down this Bears front seven. Now, Kayvon Britton, Kier Crossley are the 2 top running backs right now for UAPB, but they combined for over 110 yards and 2 touchdowns last week, and I am going to imagine they're going to factor heavily into the game plan for UAPB this week. Britton was averaging over 8 yards a carry, and Crossley was right at about 4 to 5 yards per carry. So both of them efficient, both of them can be explosive. And also Skylar Perry was the leading rusher in week 1, and he is going to have to, find a way to be as effective as he was against that Lane defense. 79 yards rushing, over 6 yards per carry, but he also was just efficient in the passing game too, almost 200 yards and a touchdown. And if he can just continue that nice balance, this offense is going to flow so nicely. They're going to be able to move the ball down the field and really give this Central Arkansas defense some trouble. And one of the strengths I don't think a lot of people talk about is the offensive line for this UAPP team. They have arguably one of the top O-line prospects in the FCS, and Mark Evans II. They paved the way for almost 300 yards rushing last weekend, and they should have a favorable matchup against this Bears D-line. Now, also a note, they did not allow any sacks on Perry against Lane. They have a little bit of a tougher test this week, but if they can keep him clean, this UAPB offense can be deadly efficient and deadly effective in this upcoming matchup. Now, matchup to watch is easy. It's going to be strength versus strength. It's the Central Arkansas wide receivers against the Arkansas Pine-Bluff secondary, which led the SWAC in interceptions in the spring and is one of the most underrated secondaries in the country. And, I mentioned the wide receiving core, LaJuan Whittingham and Tyler Hudson, both of which are 2 of the best wide receivers in the country. And Hudson is a multi-time conference player of the year, multi-time All-American. It's the favorite to be the ASUN player of the year this year. And both of these guys have combined for over 400 yards receiving, 3 touchdowns. Like I mentioned, Hudson has been averaging over 22 yards per catch. Now they have, other options. Christian Richmond and Tobias Enlow for the Bears are 2 guys you can see get some favorable matchups against UAPB due to them trying to stop Hudson and Whittingham. So look out for those 4 guys, and if Smith can just distribute the ball to them and they can create some explosive plays over the top, the Central Arkansas team is going to probably make a statement this weekend because that's the key on their offense is to force explosive plays over the top, let the wide receivers go do their thing in this pass-heavy scheme. Now, the secondary for UAPB is highlighted by, in my opinion, one of the better DBs in the country, Jalen Thigpen. He leads one of the most opportunistic secondaries in the SWAC. They forced Lane into some bad situations, got a huge interception. They're going to have to find a way to take advantage of this pass-heavy, aggressive attack from UCA. If they can force Smith into some turnovers, UAPB can get a huge win this weekend on the road. But the other name I would want you guys to watch out for, my X factor, is Tyquan Fleming. He got an interception last week, and he's really emerging as a very, very talented option in this defensive backfield next to Thigpen. So watch those two guys. Let's see how they do in terms of developing the safety spot where they lost some big transfers. UAPB has to find a way to slow down the pass and to force turnovers, because if UCA gets it going, they're going to put up 40 without effort, and it's going to be a long day for UAPB. But I'll give my prediction, and we'll get into the Tyler Hudson interview, man. Central Arkansas I think, is going to be more desperate for a win. It's really hard to have any takeaways from UAPB facing, Lane, which is a D2 school. For me, due to the home field advantage, even though it's in the same state, due to this explosive offense, I have a little bit more faith in Central Arkansas being able to find the end zone compared to UAPB. I think Central Arkansas is going to come in absolutely fired up, trying to make a statement. So I got Central Arkansas 34, UAPB 24 this weekend. At SD Stadium. I think this offense is just too good for UAPB right now. I think it's going to be a very close game early. I could just see Central Arkansas scoring late to kind of pull away, but I would expect this game to be highly contested. I just think that Central Arkansas offense is too legit right now for UAPB to pull this one out on the road. And I got a little bit of questions about their ability to establish the run, and also what happens to Skylar Perry if they get into a big shootout, which I think they're going to have to if they want to actually win this game. So got UCA 34, UAPB 24. So guys, comment your score predictions below. But guys, man, I shout out to Tyler Hudson for coming on the show, man. I couldn't thank him enough for that. But let's get right into the interview, man, and I hope you'll have a great weekend. What is up, guys? It is the Bluebloods here, and we are joined again by our guy Tyler Hudson, Central Arkansas wide receiver. We had an interview with him this offseason. That'll be linked in the bio below. But he's joining us to talk a huge non-conference matchup against UAPB this weekend that's going to be going down on the purple and gray turf up there in Central Arkansas. But, man, Tyler, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing good.
So I got to ask, man, we're through 2 weeks of the season now, and you guys have had a brutal opening 2 weeks of the schedule, man. Two really good teams you had to go up against. What have been your takeaways from week 1 and 2 for you guys this season?
So far, I think the takeaways would be executing on third down. I mean, I don't even know the stats, but I just know they're not good. We can execute on third down this game and every game moving forward. That's probably the biggest takeaway right now.
Absolutely. And I mean, 2 road games to open up the season. What is it going to be like to get back in front of that home crowd, no COVID restrictions, to kind of, in a big non-conference matchup? Do you think that's going to play any sort of a factor this weekend?
No, it's definitely going to play a factor. We don't have to travel day of the game. I mean, yeah, they're only like 2-3 hours, but still, not being able to travel and being able to play at home is just going to be great. Fresh legs, and I have family all out there, family and friends, and I don't know, it's just going to be like a rocking crowd, I would say.
Absolutely. And so just last question before we get into this week's matchup, how would you grade your performance thus far in the season? I know had a huge touchdown catch, I believe it was last week, and you've been balling out just like always, but how would you personally grade your performance?
I'll probably say a B plus. Yeah, I'd probably say B plus right now. I missed a few plays. I dropped the pass last week. That would have been a third down conversion if I would have caught it. I had a fade ball called, stepped on the guy's foot, fell, would have been a touchdown. So yeah, I'd probably say B plus right now. I could have more yards and more touchdowns. So.
Absolutely. I'm sure we're going to be doing that, this weekend. But, we cover a lot of FCS football, and UAPB has one of the better defenses in the SWAC. I believe they led the SWAC last year in turnovers produced in terms of interceptions. They have 2 or 3 All-Americans in that secondary. Just walk me through, what have you seen as you've watched film on this defense? What are your expectations? Who are you looking at? And what are your just overall takeaways of what Pine-Bluff is going to be giving you guys this weekend?
So what we've been seeing so far is that they're going to be running a lot of man and a lot of quarters. They kind of do a lot of everything, but mainly quarters, and they're going to do man. Uh, I would be excited for the man coverage. You don't really get that much. It's usually like cover three or something like that. When you do man, I do a lot of like zero, like cover zero man. So you can no help over the top. You get around him, he's beat. You just got to hope that we can have time to throw the ball. So yeah, I'd say I'm excited for cover zero.
You say, hey, that one-on-one coverage, you already know what's going to happen. But looking at this defense, because they had, I know Jalen Thigpen was named one of the best players in the FCS after last season. Are there any matchups that you're looking for in the secondary that you're like, man, if I can just get matched up on him, I know I can go make some plays?
Probably anybody who gets in front of me on their team, to be honest. Watching some of the film, they play real flat-footed. All of them do. So I'm hoping that I get a chance to go against any of them, and I'm gonna have a field day.
Absolutely, man. So I like to hear it. And just for you, what are the keys for your guys' offense? You mentioned third down, but just for you, what do you wait after this game? If you guys win, what were the things that you guys have to focus on this weekend to come out with a big non-conference win this weekend?
Uh, Besides third down execution, I would say just making big plays, um, consistently moving the ball down the field, not getting stale and stagnant on first down, and just like I said, execution was. I mean, but I said accept that, but execution definitely, because if we don't move the ball down the field in the run game, then I don't know. They're gonna play zone a lot because we can't run the ball, and they know they can stop us. So we need to be able to run the ball this week, and execution again. I can't say it enough. Execution.
Absolutely, man. And so, just for you, I know you're so hard on yourself. Our first interview, I mean, you were like, man, I got to do this, this, this. But for you, what are your expectations for yourself this week? Like going into this week, do you have a target number set? Do you have a certain thing in your head you want to accomplish? Just for you, break down what you're expecting from yourself this week.
Expecting at least 100 yards. It doesn't really matter with the catches, as long as I get 100 yards and I need at least a touchdown. Honestly, that's what I need, and I want to be able to spring a block or spring a play on a block for one of my teammates. Hopefully, it could be a run play, but I mean, I'd like to do it on a pass play too. Just want to see somebody else score too. Really.
Absolutely. And I mean, Ben, you're one of the leaders of this team, and y'all have a huge matchup next week against the defending national champions. How have you guys stayed focused on not overlooking UAPB this week and trying to look ahead to that Sam Houston game next week?
It's been pretty easy. We're 0-2. We're 0-2 right now. I mean, we need our win. We need at least one win before we go in that game, so that our morale and confidence can go up. We need that one win.
Absolutely. And, what has been the tone of the locker room? You mentioned the 0-2 start. I thought last week there were a lot of opportunities against Montana State to get a win last week. What's been the narrative in the locker room? I mean, are you guys still confident that you guys are going to take the ASUN this year and that it was just a slow start? Or like what has been the tone of the locker room thus far?
It's been pissed off. We've been really, really beat up about it. We were mad because we had the game right in our hands and just didn't go our way. So we're hoping that we can bounce back and beat up on Pine-Bluff, and then hopefully go into the next week and try to do the same thing as Sam Houston State.
Absolutely, man. And you guys are still ranked in the top 25. How much do you guys pay attention to those rankings throughout the season? And for you, is the playoffs still like on your radar? Like what are kind of the goals now that the season has started? What are you looking to accomplish this season?
Honestly, just trying to make it to the playoffs if we're thinking about playoffs right now, because we're 0-2 right now, and I think I've seen or heard somebody say we're like number 25. So I know I think it's like what 2014 making to the playoffs. So right now, I guess we'd be out
Yep.
of the playoffs right now. So if we're thinking about playoffs, I just hope we make it right now.
Absolutely, man. And so last question here before I'll let you know, kind of plug yourself and everything like that. Man, can you give me any sort of prediction for this weekend? You know, what can I be looking forward to? I got the preview coming out with this interview on this game tomorrow morning. So for you, what is your prediction for, you know, Central Arkansas UAPB this weekend, man?
I would say probably 35. Us, UCA has about 35 to 49 points, and Pine-Bluff probably has 14 to 28 points, I would believe.
Ooh, I like it, man. I like it. But, man, I appreciate you. Listen, I'll probably still be reaching out, man. We'll be covering that Sam Houston game. So we'd love to have you back on for that one as well, kind of recap this game. But for you, man, plug yourself on social media. Where can people find you and just kind of, you know, let them know what's up?
You can find me on Twitter at Tyler18. Like I said earlier, I made it when I was a freshman in high school. And then you can find me on Instagram at T_Huddy HUDDY.01.
Absolutely. And guys, that will be in the bio of this video. But Tyler, man, the best of luck this weekend. We'll definitely be watching, definitely be reaching back out to you, man. But I appreciate you coming on, my guy.
Thank you for the invitation. Hopefully we can do it next week.
Oh, man, absolutely. We will definitely make time. But guys, you know, for Tyler, myself, we are out.